License and registration, he can sense your aggravation.
On the head of the fallen angel.
When the world is muttering under the floorboards, stomp even louder.
Time.
Let them know you are alive today.
Or unhum.
Did you know that your hands came with a ripple effect?
Whisper tones unraveling like silk.
Blood, sweat, and tears win by any means poetry.
Wait, look at me. Is a piece of the pie too good for me?
Some may call it rock the mic. We call it poetry.
It continues. The beating on my door has gotten louder, unbearably so. I recognize it, feel it in my soul. Echoes of my ancestors' cries ring through each beat like strikes of a whip in the belly of a slave ship. Yesterday, it was the piercing clang of steel striking railroad tracks. Sometimes the sound is muffled, like the moan of mothers giving birth in cane or cotton fields as they wrap their newborn babe in ripped sackcloth torn from their backs, as they bend in the heat of the midday sun, knowing they'd be beat if they didn't meet their quota. The sounds tell a story that won't die. And that sound continues to grow louder, like when I think I might have a moment of peace, just one moment of peace. But then my son comes home from school with notes from teachers saying he's falling asleep in class, saying he's not keeping up. Yet when he asks for help or extra time, he's ignored because teachers don't care that he's got to work after school to help feed his younger sister, who stays on the honor roll like he used to. But she has no idea of her brother's sacrifice or the pain of her mother, who knows no other way since their father got sent away. And that knock on the door gets louder, like a shot in the night. Feels like the heat of southern torches, crosses burning at midnight. Sounds, knocks, muffled or not, come more often, get louder every day, and the sound, like the pain, continues. Hello, and welcome once again to Sojourn with Words right here on CTV. And of course, we're coming to you from Largo, Maryland. My name is Sistah Joy, and today we are blessed to have with us KaNikki Jakarta. She is known as KaNikki in circles, but she is well known because she is the former Poet Laureate of Alexandria, Virginia. But before I start dropping in my personal knowledge and friendship of her, let me just share some information about KaNikki Jakarta. Well, she's been featured on NBC, WUSA 9, and Comcast. She currently serves as the inaugural poet in residence for Northern Virginia Fine Arts Association. She is an award-winning, and guarantee you, an award-winning performance poet and an Amazon best-selling author who has toured the US and the UK. Now, KaNikki is the first Black Poet Laureate of Alexandria, Virginia, and the author of 3 novels, 2 poetry collections, a memoir, a short story, poetry collection entitled Alabama Girl, Virginia Woman. Oh my goodness, love that book. This is KaNikki's second appearance on Sojourn with Words. As a teaching artist and facilitator, KaNikki's mission is to provoke positive change, one book and one workshop at a time. So Welcome, KaNikki Jakarta. So good to have you back. How are you? What's going on?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's cold. Nothing's going on but the cold.
Very true. Very true. Well, certainly there are many things that our guests would like to learn about you before they begin to hear your poetry. And I'm waiting to see which pieces you're going to share today as well. But in the introduction, I mentioned Alabama Girl, Virginia Woman, which of course is a short story and poetry collection. Talk to us about that book. And well, first of all, the combination of prose and poetry, but also the message itself. Tell us about it.
I write novels too. So I wanted to provide a book that the people who read the novels would also read that and get the poetry too. So I figured I'll put a little short stories in there. I named it Alabama Girl, Virginia Woman because I grew up in Mobile, Alabama. So Virginia got the woman because I moved to Virginia when I was 21. So I've been in Virginia since 1995, I think. So basically, not that deep, but Alabama had the girl, Virginia had the woman, hence Alabama Girl, Virginia Woman. So I wanted to add my KaNikki quotes, which basically were Facebook posts, and people said that they were profound. So I decided to call them KaNikki quotes, put them in the book. And then I added some haikus as well, added some poetry, of course, because I am a poet, and combined it in one book so that people who like to read my Facebook posts, people who like to read the novels can get a short story snippet, and then people who like the poetry can get the poetry. So it's all in one book.
All right. And so we now understand the title and what the book is about. Now KaNikki, that's a unique name. I don't think I know another KaNikki. Talk to us about the meaning of your name. I have to ask.
My mother read a lot of Nikki Giovanni poetry with me when she was pregnant. And she decided, because she loved Nikki Giovanni so much, that she was going to name me Nikki Giovanni. And then in the end, right before I was born, she said, I think I'll name her KaNikki instead. And thank God he didn't name me Nikki Giovanni, because there would have been some confusion over the years and times and things. So that's where my name came from. She named me KaNikki because of Nikki Giovanni. And then she heard Jakarta, which is the capital of Indonesia, and she thought it sounded good together, put them together, and here I am.
Okay.
Here I am.
Okay, well, KaNikki Jakarta has made a name for herself in poetry circles. You best believe. I'm getting ahead of myself because I want to hear the poetry so bad. But anyway, when you talk about your writing and that you write novels as well as poetry, but what was it that pulled you to poetry in the beginning? Why poetry?
Well, first of all, my mom, of course, liked Nikki Giovanni, so she created a poet in the womb, right? And then, because I was getting read poetry before I was born. So I was getting read poetry. My dad was a Maya Angelou and Dr. Seuss fan. So my dad's name was Sam, and he walked around the house saying, I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam. I actually thought my dad was Dr. Seuss. Once I got the green eggs and hams book for, I'm a child, so I got it for Christmas. I actually was like, oh my God, so my dad's. So I actually thought that. I entered poetry competitions when I went to a private Christian school in Mobile, Alabama, and they had poetry for a class. And I always liked the way, the words rhyme, and, the melody, the tempo, rhyming words, putting those words together. I always liked that. And then when I was about 9 or 10, I was at church, and this lady, she was doing like a rendition of the beginning of the world. And we were all in the dark, and she was like, God made the world, God created the light, and the light was good. And then the lights came on. It was this whole beautiful production. And I said, whatever it is that she's doing, I want to do that. Like whatever. I didn't know that spoken word was a thing until I was 21 and saw like man, probably 22, and I saw Love Jones, and I saw people standing up with the djembe drum doing poetry, and I was like, oh, this is a thing. I can stand up and do that. So the way that lady made me feel in reciting, doing that rendition, I said, whatever that is, that's what I want to do. And then when I saw that movie, I said, oh, I can do that with poetry. So that's how spoken word happened for me. So poetry has been in my life my entire life, though.
I see. From the womb all the way
From the womb.
My goodness. When you talk about poetry, I know the passion is great. And the reality is also that you're a mother as well as a full-time artist who is married to an artist.
Yeah.
That requires some kind of juggling, I'm sure. How do you balance? How do you find
My hands are always up. My hands are always up. You said 3 things and I only got 2 hands, right? So my everything is always up. My child, who will be 3 in April, also identifies as a 5-year-old. She has a very big vocabulary and she keeps me on my toes. So definitely looking at her when we were down to Alabama in Christmas, she discovered red dirt. Just watching her discover things over and over. She's like, oh, it's dirt, but it's red, right? So watching her discover things, making me relook at things is also an inspiration for me, right? And of course, being married to a poet, so there's always the poetry energy that's in the house, right? But then, you still gotta fix the food for the baby, fix the food for the husband, fix the food for yourself, gotta find time to write. So now my writing is different, where I can sit down and write one poem. I have an idea and I can sit down and write it in one sitting. Now I can't do that, because as soon as you start writing or something, here comes the baby, she needs something. So until she gets in school, I'll be writing in little choppy things and trying to figure out how to put that all together. So my writing availability has changed. Definitely.
Okay. Well, certainly there are many times when I think most poets will get that inspiration and write down a few notes and come back to it. And I've personally never had the luxury of completing a poem all in one setting. Frankly speaking, I go back and edit and modify, and my thing is, of course, I love words, and so I have to find a way to be concise. That's not my nature, but that's required in poetry. So when you are one of the queens of haiku. Of course, we know Kim is the queen.
Yes, she is the queen. She is the queen.
Speaking of Kim B. Miller, I will name drop, but I've witnessed some of yours as well, and I love the brevity of haiku. It's just does not come natural to me. Now, when are there other forms of form poetry is challenging for some, and haiku is fun for once you get in that mindset. But are there other forms of poetry that you do enjoy, whether it's sonnet or tanka or?
I do like sonnets. I can't write tankas. I can write it, but it's gonna take a minute. It's gonna take a while. But of course, I like free verse. Who does not like a free verse?
We all like free verse.
Who does not?
Yeah. Okay. So who are some of your influences in poetry? Who do you look to for just inspiration, but also just to appreciate their work?
Of course, I look to Nikki Giovanni. I've had a lot of her books. Of course, I went back and read. When I met her, she was like, you should go back and read the poetry that your mother was reading in 74, 75 when I was writing it, to see what the inspiration was for that. And then, of course, over the years, I've discovered, I discovered Tupac and Maya Angelou, of course. And then I have some local poets who I look up to. I like Asha Watson. I like, of course, 13 of Nazareth, who is your favorite poet, and my husband. So definitely him, and Talam AC and Queen Sheba. So I've been inspired by the spoken word poets as well, and the page poets as well. So, and thankfully I can do both.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Well, we know that poetry is a passion of yours. When you step away from poetry and you step away from family and you step away from work, where do you go? What is it that part of your life that you held on to despite all the challenges that balancing the life of a poet, of a married poet who's a mother and all that goes with it?
You know, I don't have time for this in this interview, but I will say some years back, I felt I had congestive heart failure and I could not, it was hard to speak. And I was riding a bike at the time. And I would love to just, if I could just ride my bike, it was just, you know, not having the breath to do that has been a very big challenge for me. But now I can have the breath to speak and now I can ride again. So if you see me on the side of the street, just honk your horn and be like, there's that poet.
Okay.
Definitely.
I never knew that about you. You're a bike rider.
Yeah.
I won't tell you my horrific story about trying to become a bike rider. But anyway, when we talk to poets about their overseas experiences, can you speak briefly on that?
Yeah. It's the same in the US and the UK. Basically, it's the same feel. If you're looking for something that's totally different, it's not. But the feeling is the same, but the material, like what they're talking about, may be different, right? Because they're talking about something that's happening in their country. And then so you're learning a little bit of their history when they're talking. Just like when we talk about what's happening in the US, and everybody can relate when you're out of the country, when they're talking about something, you're like, oh, let me look that up because I have no idea what they're talking about. So that's the only difference, but the field and the welcoming of poetry is still the same.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, speaking of welcoming the poetry, how about we welcome some poetry by KaNikki Jakarta right about now. Let's see what you've got for us, KaNikki. And again, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to present to some and to welcome back to others, KaNikki Jakarta.
Okay. Fantastic. One of my favorite things to do, read a poem. So I'm going to start with this piece. It's called Awaiting, like awaiting in the water. Many Black people that I know are afraid of the ocean. Not the textbook definition of feeling fear, but those who draw near are only willing to wade. They are afraid to make waves in a history that may sweep them away into an undergarment of history repeating itself, because screaming help didn't assist our ancestors. In fact, the wading in the water was a way to wash away a human scent to leave dogs' noses no evidence of them being there. A passageway to freedom calling their names so quietly only a soul could hear. To draw near to their history is a stirring in our bones in other undertone that we put on mute to silence what was never right. Sometimes to win a fight, you get out of sight and yearn to be seen, beyond the horizon, farther than the possible limit of sight, beyond what was able to be foreseen. So in this time, there will be no repeat of history. We know where we came from. We know our destinations. No more plantations. We're on a staycation for the duration of our own imagination. We move in fascination, like the flow of water. We are the sons and daughters of our forefathers who left traces of themselves through blood, sweat, and tears for years of painful yesterday. Imagine being enslaved during a slave trade and thought of as a commodity, standing on docks and auction blocks of people of African descent who didn't know the possibility of an escape in those days. But we were taught how to wade, through labors leaving legacies, knowing how to bob and weave, knitting together stories of a unity, a compass pointing in all directions of lifelines, and Negro spirituals while peering through church windows, we are stained glass with colorful exterior of a painful past. They called our neighborhood the Bottom, 8 miles from the Potomac River where Black people were free, built our own homes and called it a community. Yet many Black people that I know have a fear of the ocean, but in their daily motions, they move through history like the flow of water, absorbing over, above, under, and around a railroad and an underground to freedom. It's not that we don't know how to swim. We can prepare our bodies through water using our limbs. It's that deep down we know that our ancestors didn't swim for pleasure in those days. It's not that we are afraid. It's that we rather move through our lives like the flow of water and wade. Right. Thanks for the snaps.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. Okay. This one is a newer piece. It is called The Test of Time. Time waits for no one. but it will reduce its speed just long enough for you to take inventory of your decisions, for you to take provisions and envision a better position while you're in a transition of what is next for you. Just when you have no clue, you start anew. Upon entering my first year of high school, my daddy asked, "What will you do after graduation?" Without hesitation, I responded, "Man, I'm only in the 9th grade." His curiosity didn't fade when he informed me that time has rules. In another 48 months, high school will conclude. You better pay attention. Time speeds up when you are grown. I wish I would have known that this life is on loan and you pay back with high interest rates if you don't take inventory of your mistakes. You will be tested. And if you don't pass, you will spend some of it on repeat until the lesson that you were supposed to learn is complete. You have to stand on your own 2 feet. Stand your ground. Learning is profound, and when you learn, you can teach. Like, for example, you can never catch up on sleep, and memories are the only things that you can keep. And power naps lose power the older you get, and you can never win if you continue to quit. And starting again isn't necessarily the same thing as starting over. And if you keep at it, you get a little bit closer to your definition of success, and you determine what is best for you. Some things you confess, some things you hold close to your chest until you figure out what's next in your mind. Time does not wait, so you have no time to waste in this one life you have to live. Time is the most precious thing that you can give. Use your time wisely. You only have a specific amount. Life is what you make it, so make the dash count. Yes, time. Let me make this a little bigger. And the older you get, I should put that. You lose your eyesight, though. I should put that in the book. Okay, this one is called Straight Through Hell. And I heard an elder say, if you're going through hell, keep going. Even if you have no way of knowing what's on the other side. Even if you have no one to whom you can confide, be quiet. Move in silence. Hide in plain sight. Hold on tight to what's yet to come. This is where faith comes from wishing, dreaming, imagining something better, something new, something manifested just for you with an imaginary glue that's holding everything together, including you. You can take care of you. Look at all you've been through and you're still breathing. You're still believing. This can't be it. This can't be all there is. After all of these years and all of these tears, hope appears right in front of your eyes. And I heard an elder say, I'll be there if the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. Child, apologize to yourself. Forgive yourself. Grab your future and leave this in the past. You've lived long enough to know that this won't last. It's been okay before. You will make it back to the state of okay. But for today, keep moving. Keep choosing not to stand still. Move your feet. Speed walk. Sprint. Run through hell. You will prevail and live to tell the story. Give God the glory one more time. You'll be just fine if you just keep going.
Wow.
Thank you.
I want all of these poems. I want comments on all of these poems. Oh my goodness.
Thank you. Thank you. And this one is called Patience Poet. I wrote it after a conversation with my friend Asha, and it is dedicated to anybody who has to take time away from whatever art you have. But of course, I'm a poet, so I titled it Patience Poet and dedicated this to poets. Dear poet, when things aren't right and you can't write, hold on tight to your poet title, knowing that writing will return in time. When you've cleared your mind, poetry will be near. Poetry is not impatient when you've lost your patience or become the patient. When things are a weight on you, poetry will wait for you, like children wait on parents. When it is apparent that you need to step away to regroup, poetry will wait for you, like a groom waits for his bride. Take it all in stride. Poetry will sit in a period of delay. So even if you do not write today, poetry will wait and wait and wait while you're starting a family, starting a new job, when life is hectic, when life is hard, through brokenheartedness to getting over this, poetry will wait for you. For goodness sake, when you're asleep or awake, when you had all you can take, poetry will wait like a hopeful romantic when you're at ease or panic, when you've taken care of yourself, when you're caregiving for someone else, poetry will never give up on you. So hold all this to be true. You are the best thing that happened to poetry. No matter how long it has been, you will still be a poet as soon as you pick up your pen.
Very good. Very good. Yes.
I love that. One day I'm going to learn that poem so I can recite it. I love that poem.
Oh, we love the fact that you read it. That's just fine.
All right. So apparently I did not bring this up on my screen to read. So I'm going to have to read it from the book. And I thought I was being clever by not titling these pages in my book. It wasn't smart. I need to be able to find the poems. Okay, this one is called Walking, and it's probably going to be my last one. Okay. When a toddler stands for the first time, an audience assembles, a cheering section emerges, hope urges a first step, hand reached towards her in case she needs help. We all know that she can do it. So we wait and we anticipate the steps she will take, the ones that will give her the cognizance and confidence to walk in her walk. And when she falls, she's met with applause, hands extended for assistance to help her stand again, encouraging her to begin again, because life is a walk and we're all willing to talk her through it with a little bit of encouragement. But when an adult stands for the first time, an audience of naysayers assembles, no hands extended, only fingers pointed in the wrong direction, no compassion, no affection, but life is a walk. And some people are afraid to get left behind in the steps of the past. See, sometimes we have to make our own paths, nothing leading the way but determination and hope, walking a tightrope of the unexpected, swallowing rejections like a horse pill. But you can't stand still, not if you want to live, not if you want to make a life for a living, not if you're willing to make a life for yourself. Sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Sometimes there'll be no one there to help you but you. Sometimes you have to be your own cheerleader, your own leader, your own boss, whatever it costs. Sometimes you have to go broke to be enriched, to be whole, to mold yourself into yourself. And with God's help, anything, no, everything is possible.
All right. Everything is possible. Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Well, this has been KaNikki Jakarta blessing us here on Sojourn with Words. Thank you so much, KaNikki. Tell our guests how they can reach you. Where are you available? Either our website or online or your social media?
I am available. My website is KaNikkiJ.com. That's KaNikkij.com. And you can also find me on all the social media platforms at KaNikkij.com and email me at KaNikkiJ@yahoo.com or gmail.com. And maybe the next time you could find me will be at the event that you're creating. Never know.
That's right. That's right. We definitely want to support our poets from Sojourn with Words. We know that Sojourn with Words is viewed now globally because of this virtual platform. So I'm hoping that poets from everywhere will reach out to KaNikki Jakarta and to Sistah Joy, letting us know what's happening in your circles where you're sharing poetry. And hey, if you know a good poet, tell them to reach out to Sistah Joy. Let me know. We might have them on the show. Okay? So that's Sojourn with Words one more time, welcoming and now saying farewell.